Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm John the Carboning. Shattered dreams. Graduation is coming up soon, and for one school district, that could mean a wake-up call into drunk driving. But could that mean a wake-up call for every school that wants to have this program put in place? Here's Melissa Trevino.
Orlando Perez says he gets it. The 16-year-old was one of about 100 teenagers participating in a mock crash scenario as a dead person.
The reason why I also did choose to do this was because my cousin Albert was actually struck by an 18-wheeler. The driver was drunk. Fortunately, everyone in the car lived except him.
The teenager told me witnessing the first responders at the mock event reminded him of the day he lost his cousin in 2019. He tells me he's hopeful the event, known as Shattered Dreams, which focuses on DUI-related crashes, sends a message to his peers.
Your car can live through a crash. You can't. So it's more wise to get a ride from someone who is sober.
Freer's municipal judge tells me she is proud to welcome the event to her city for the second time since 2007.
It's a reenactment of the pain, the horror of what law enforcement sees, what first responders see, what the victims' families have to endure.
I reached out to TxDOT to learn how many DUI crashes the agency tracked last year. A spokesman counted 4,950 crashes involving alcohol and drivers between the ages of 16 and 24.
We've had several fatalities of students having celebrated too much and making the decision to get behind the wheel of the car.
Judge Rachel Santos says she wants everyone to know they can save lives. Carmen Araguion is another Freer High School student.
I didn't know I was gonna die.
For Araguion, she says the mock crash is sobering.
It makes me feel sad, like, wow, that was someone. And it's like devastating.
Students I spoke with told me they understand that what they saw here was a mock event, but they know that this could become someone's reality. In Freer, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Melissa Trevino, Press 6 News.
And it can be a wake-up call if you don't take extra precautions. It's like we talked about, this is real.
Members of the Robson IAC National Science.
This is the real deal. And look, you can just say that, you can sit there and say, hey, I don't care. You're gonna care, because this is a wake-up call. I mean, we have programs to help combat drinking and driving. There are examples out there that we've talked about. And if you don't abide by these examples, it's gonna get worse. Jail time, suspension of license. You gotta take classes. And if you don't take those classes, you won't be able to get your license back. Drinking and driving is so wrong. We're still under stage 3 of the water restrictions. For one person about to meet here in Flower Bluff, she says she was fined $500. Now, why would she be fined $500? She was just watering her lawn. Here's my good friend Tony Hellemere.
In Flower Bluff. I'm Tony Jaramillo, your neighborhood news reporter in Flower Bluff. About 2 weeks ago, this resident received a $500 citation for watering her yard, a violation under Stage 3 drought restrictions. But she was confused because she had a well water sign up. But it turns out there's one more step the city requires.
Water restrictions, Stage 3, Code 55-153.
That's a citation Dorothy Holmes received on May 5th.
Apparently they came by my house and saw that I was watering my yard. And I have a well watering use sign.
She's lived in Flower Bluff for decades, and for over 20 years she's used her own well to water her yard.
I've had my well since 2002, and I don't understand. It's registered through the state, so why they're having a problem.
Holmes sent me a message on Facebook to see if we could find answers for her.
On Social Security, so I don't have $500. And I paid a lot of money for the well for the purpose of keeping my yard up and nice.
Corpus Christi Water says if you don't want to get a citation and face a hefty fine, well owners must also register their wells with the city, not just the state.
The city of Corpus Christi, and one of those is to make sure that they have been identified and they've been registered with the district and with the city.
Esteban Ramos, the Corpus Christi City Water's resource manager, says the city has free online registration, and they'll also give well owners an official sign to display.
You can make your own wooden picket sign. We'll give you a certificate, and that's the sign, and that you promote, you put that out so that our investigators or enforcement people can see.
In Holmes' case, her sign wasn't from the city and her well wasn't registered, but once she did both, the citation was waived. Corpus Christi Water says they plan to step up communication on how to properly register the wells and why it matters. In Flower Bluff, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Tony Jaramillo, Chris 6 News.
Thank you, Tony. And here's why it matters. Taxes. That's what matters, is taxes. That's what matters. Politics, taxes. You want to have a one-on-one use? Okay. But just know that it's all about the taxes and politics. Bullying is up next. We've talked about it for a few weeks, but there might still be more, so please stay with us. Would you pay the price? Would you pay the price to have a safe building? Would you pay the price to find out if your building is safe from terrorists or from bombs? Well, 30 years ago, Timothy McVeigh committed the Oklahoma City bombing, and he was sentenced to death in 1997. He admitted to it. He chose that because of the structural intelligence. But the question remains, is the building that you're in is the building that you live in, could the building that you live in be safe even if there were to be another terroristic bombing? Here's John Scott.
As 125 million of us head to our jobs each day, we're now painfully aware that a terrorist could happen anytime, anywhere, maybe even where we work.
When you think about how people move freely into thousands of buildings every day, you realize the gargantuan task you have now in terms of the security considerations.
Security expert Bob McGuire helped harden or protect U.S. embassies after bloody attacks in Beirut in 1983. Now that the car bomb has come to America, we asked him, how safe can we make our workplace?
You can't make a building terrorist-proof.
McGuire says trying to construct bomb-resistant buildings is unrealistic. It would add as much as 50% to construction costs, and our buildings would look like prisons. You'd see a lot more concrete and fewer, smaller windows, just the opposite of contemporary glass-covered buildings. That glassy exterior helped make the federal building in Oklahoma City more vulnerable when it was bombed last month. This computer simulation was created by Engineering Animation with the help of the architect of the Murrah building. As it shows, the bomb-filled truck was parked just steps away from the front door. At detonation, the blast knocked out 3 of the 4 support columns at ground level. Once those collapsed, the upper floors began falling in on each other, the pancaking effect that searchers say probably killed most of the victims inside. The explosive shockwave blew out the window and penetrated deep into the interior, hitting each floor from below. That caused them to first bulge skyward, then crumble back down to the ground. If the outside walls had been harder, the damage would have been less catastrophic.
Can you make a building sufficiently secure that you will probably dissuade a terrorist or a terrorist group from trying to use it as a target? I think the answer is yes.
Already, many U.S. buildings have been made safer. Perhaps the best example, the World Trade Center, bombed by terrorists in 1993.
This is a commercial complex. It's not a military fortress, and it shouldn't be viewed as a military fortress.
World Trade Center Director Charles Makish showed us the most visible elements of the new security plan. the kinds of precautions you might see in your workplace in the days to come.
There is no guarantee that a terrorist event will occur or not occur, but you don't become consumed by that reality. You give people peace of mind that you've taken reasonable, prudent, measured steps.
For instance, every single one of the 50,000 people employed in the Twin Towers must now display ID badges just to get in the elevators. These aren't simple laminated photo cards. They're encoded to read out only under ultraviolet light. All visitors must be authorized by tenants and have to show photo IDs before they can get building passes, which are valid for only a limited time.
So this kind of screening didn't go on at all before the bombing? No, the Trade Center was a totally open complex.
But now, anti-vehicle barricades block the entrances to the underground garages. They can stop a car doing 50 miles an hour and are open only to drivers with valid credentials. Cargoes are checked on incoming trucks. Nobody makes a delivery unless a tenant in the building says it was expected. Each driver's identification is checked, and they're even photographed. And these new planters are not part of a beautification program. They're 6,000-pound concrete barricades which surround the Trade Center to block a suicide bomber from smashing into the lobby with a car or truck bomb.
How much is all of this costing you? It's costly. There's no denying the fact that it is costly.
In fact, the World Trade Center now spends $12 million a year more on security than it did before the bombing. In the months to come, Americans will have to decide. How much are we willing to pay? How much inconvenience are we willing to tolerate in exchange for greater security?
There are things you can do. Nothing's perfect. You cannot stop it completely. Can you do more than we're doing? The answer is emphatically yes.
One final note. Just today, Timothy McVeigh's lawyer, Stephen Jones, dropped his attempt to delay the demolition of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma. He had wanted to search it for evidence that might help McVeigh's defense. The demolition is now scheduled for next Tuesday.
Wow. That leads you to believe that your building can be safe if they were to take the proper measures. How much are we paying for it? Over $1 million. It's our tax money, and we're paying for it up. And we're paying for it up the ass. But when it comes to safety and security, nobody cares. It's like you got a new building, but we don't want to hear about security. We want to have a good building. Let's take you now from Oklahoma to the state of New Jersey. In New Jersey, there is another case. There's been a case of bullying going on. With one person saying, quote, "I cry myself to sleep. Relentless bullying leaves New Jersey boy scared to go to school." That's one of the causes of kids not going to school. It's true. That's one of the causes of kids not going to school. That's why kids are being truant, because they're not going to school. Because they're being bullied, they're refusing to go to school. Take a look at this.
"12-year-old Dimitri Figueroa used to love school."
An allegation new tonight at 11, allegations of bullying at another New Jersey school. And a student's mother told us that nothing's being done about this. News 4's Ida Siegel has the story from Fair Lawn.
12-year-old Dimitri Figueroa used to love school, but now he dreads it. Dimitri says he's been relentlessly bullied by a particular group of kids, so much so he's scared every day.
Cry myself to sleep. I don't feel safe at all in school.
Dimitri and the boys he says have been bullying him are all in the 6th grade at Thomas Jefferson Middle School in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. He says he used to be friends with those boys. His mother Anna says it all started when he ended his friendship with one of the boys, and that kid started harassing him. And he says later attacked him at Berdan Grove Park.
He put me in a headlock, which I started choking, and I started trying to gasp for air. He started throwing punches and kicking, then he grabbed me and he body slammed me to the ground.
And you hit your head on the...
And I hit directly on my head.
I have tried to reach out to the parents, and they turned the tables as if their son is innocent and mine is the problem.
The doctor said Dimitri suffered a severe concussion from the fight and ordered bed rest, which caused Dimitri to miss a month of school. When he returned, he says the harassment got worse.
He cornered me in the bathroom. He's yelling insults at me in the hallway, and I don't feel like the school is trying hard enough to look at them.
Anna says she filed a harassment, intimidation, and bullying report with the school district. She was assured the school would separate the boys and keep Dimitri safe, but she says little has changed. Now she wants her son transferred to the other middle school in town.
This is a never-ending nightmare. I just want this to stop. I don't want the backlash. I just want someone to hear that this is a cry for help.
We reached out to the school superintendent for comment and to ask if Dimitri could switch to the other middle school in town. We did not hear back. Meanwhile, Dimitri's mother says her next step is to press criminal charges. Reporting from Fairlawn, Ida Siegel, News 4, New York.
There are other ways to prevent this from happening. Like this mother, they took steps to report it. But we also understand this. Tell your children this. Telling is not tattling. Because we often hear people say, "Oh, nobody likes a tattletale." Well, telling somebody that you're being victimized, you're being bullied and harassed, that's not tattling. Telling is not tattling. Nobody likes it because all people say, "Oh, nobody likes a tattletale, nobody likes a snitch." Okay, no one likes to be a snitch. I'm glad something's being done. This mother's pressing charges. Well, they tried to report it to the school. They took steps. I mean, what's going to happen from years from now? Aren't you that kid that got a concussion? Yeah, what's the worst day of my life? Do you have a question about that? Oh, no. Too late. Here's one for 3 days ago. Charles County mother says school ignored bullying concerns before the classroom fight. Look, what are you guys fighting about? What are y'all fighting about? There's no need to fight. We all see these videos on Facebook all about people fighting. Charles County mother is speaking out after she says her daughter was forced to defend herself during a fight inside a classroom. She claims school officials failed to act on repeated warnings about bullying or threats. Even this one. This makes me sick. A 7-year-old was found hanging in the school bathroom. The parents are demanding answers now. You know why? Over the weekend, a mother announced on social media that her 7-year-old son was hanging in a boys' bathroom by a 4th grader on Friday at an elementary school. In the post, she detailed a traumatizing ordeal as doctors tending to her son, and she says those feelings are still with her. A horse playing in the bathroom. You know what? We're going to take a break here. I'm going to replay something that I talked to Eric about. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, like I said, 5 years ago, I talked with Eric, who created Stop Bullying CCISD, which led me to create Stop Bullying Speak Up. After I've heard about a story about a 7-year-old who hanged himself in a bathroom. these kids were like horseplay in the bathroom, and it led to a 7-year-old hanging himself. In my mind, it's like, what's the school doing about it? You know what? I'm going to replay a conversation I had with Eric all about taking the doors off the bathrooms. Thought I was going to build their own police department, and the issues that we talked about
eliminated. And it's very hard for children to trust somebody. And I think trust is probably the biggest foundation that we have to build bullying on. We have to trust one another that, hey, if I tell you that I'm being bullied, are you going to do something about it?
Yeah, because we've
deteriorated this trust in CCID because kids are saying, hey, I'm being bullied, and nothing's being done about it. So it becomes a normal thing when actually it's an abnormal thing. I mean, not to sit here and say that I wasn't unscathed in middle school, but I got punched, I got talked about bad, verbally, physically, and emotionally. And now we're seeing a bigger thing going on. We're seeing cyberbullying, and cyberbullying is probably one of the worst category of bullying that can happen to a child, because people can make a fake profile on social media and talk bad about you.
Yeah, I think the big advice would be for all parents listening at home is for you guys to unplug. Don't just like unplug your phones and stuff. Just unplug this stuff. Like if someone calls you saying, "I want you to die," if someone at the mid says, "I want you to," you hang up. That's it. You unplug.
Right. And we got to raise awareness of these social media apps that a lot of kids are getting involved in, like Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. Just yesterday I seen a Instagram page where it's called Haas Fight, HAAS Fight, and it's nothing but fights that are happening in restrooms at Haas Middle School. I mean, there's about 50 different videos of different kids fighting in these restrooms. Where are the teachers? Where are the principals?
Okay, here we go. This is where he
No
points
one's
out.
there because no one's there.
No cameras are there because no one wants to. No cameras are there because no one wants to be peeping in the bathroom. We need to put cameras outside the bathroom where they won't look into the stalls. And if students have a problem with that, well, we need to address these to every school district everywhere.
I honestly think that we need to take off the doors of these restrooms in school, but that's just my opinion.
We'll just put the cameras at the doors. Well, I agree with him. I would say put the cameras in the bathroom. That's a violation of Section 40. That's a violation of Section 2115 of the Texas Penal Code. Wrong. When I said that, I did not know there was a law put in place years ago, Section 2115 of the Texas Penal Code. So if I had to go back in time and scratch out what I had to say, then okay. But I agree with Eric. There should be no horseplay in the bathroom. What there needs to be is get back to a 5-minute rule. If you're gone for more than 5 minutes, it counts as a cut. But if it was something else, then if you're in the bathroom too long, then you gotta explain to the teacher, like you had diarrhea or whatever. It's like this. You leave from your classroom to the restroom and back to the classroom. You don't go somewhere else and this, and that. May I go to the bathroom and all of a sudden you're going to go get a drink, you're going to go hang out with your friends, you're going to go eat some lunch, you're going to do this, and that. That's not the way it works. You leave from the bathroom to there. From the bathroom, from the school, the classroom, bathroom, you go back to class. Get in, get out, get back to class. If you're gone for more than 18 minutes, that's half a period. And believe me, I have been dealing with this bullying ever since 2020 when Crystal Bluth's son got bullied. That led me to not only create Stop Bullying, Speak Up, but this is because of what's been going on. And believe me, if I could go back in time, to what is going to happen again? I mean,
the cameras at the door for sure, but take off the doors. These doors shut and they're closed. You can't hear what's going on inside. bodies rumbling in there, and you can't hear it if you're in the classroom waiting for the.
And look at this. There's more. The principal sent out a letter. After this was, look at this. This was from the letter. This was a letter from the principal. 2 of our students were reportedly horseplay in the school bathroom when one student's jacket got caught in a stall door hook. The student was unable to free themselves, and the other student involved was also not able to help him. The student left the bathroom to seek help from the staff and reported the incident to administrators. The victim's mom says she's not convinced of what happened. And this is what the victim's mom said. It doesn't make sense to me. If you're horseplaying, how do you get caught on a hook? What about the hospital records? The hospital records show that the child suffered a neck contusion, which is caused by blunt trauma. So where the incident got around, parents living around the elementary school couldn't believe this happened to people so young. Both Charles County Public Schools and the Charles County Sheriff's Office are investigating what happened on Friday. Shockwaves from this incident have been felt as far away as Texas. The 1 in 5 Foundation for Kids, formerly the Uvalde Foundation for Kids, announced on Saturday that it will be launching its own investigation of the incident. I have been talking about this for years. How do you think it creates Stop Bullying, Speak Up? And yet, nowadays there's people out there who don't want to be picked on, That's why that's why kids are just saying to their parents, hey, I don't want to go to school today because I'm tired of being bullied. If I was bullied, I would tell my mom right away that I'm being bullied. I would tell them the name of the student, and what's been going on. Then what we would do together is we would report to the school via the school website and see what would happen. If they didn't figure it out, then we would both be going down to the office to schedule a meeting. Not me, my mom, and the assistant principal. We would sit down together and have a meeting, have a conference and say, look, this is what's going on. This person's been picking on me, and I want to stop. We have filed a report on the website, and I don't know if you guys are aware. But going to New Hampshire, here's the question here. Should parents of school bullies face consequences? Some New Hampshire public politicians say think so. When we come back, we're going to answer that question for you. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Could parents face consequences if the parents of the school, welcome back. Should parents of school bullies face consequences? Think about this. Your child is the bully, is bullying somebody, and they will come up to you and say, "Well, because of what your son did, we're gonna have you pay $500." $500. It's a hefty fine. Well, in New Hampshire, politicians are saying yes, it should happen. This was posted back in December from New Hampshire publicradio.org. Expect school vouchers, budget shortfalls, and the rights to transgender students to divide legislature next year. School bullying too. Lawmakers behind the renewed efforts to rein in bullying say their goal is to address shortcomings in the state's existing laws and reporting requirements. They also responded to calls for more accountability on the part of parents and schools alike. Of the 4 bullying bills proposed so far, one from Representative Peter Lishman and Peterborough Democrat may be one of the most controversial. It would allow school districts to take parents and guardians to court if their child has bullied somebody and they refuse to help the school address the behavior. Parents could face a fine of up to $750,000 and or community service. Lisa Walker, the superintendent of the Grantham Middle School District, asked Lishman to file the bill. Its response, she said, to parents who undermine schools by rejecting concerns about their child's behavior, including fines for bullying. She says it has become more and more difficult to get parents to come to the table and be part of the solution when parents are part of the problem. You're just taking away any authority the school has in addressing any behavior. That is the response to the parent. That is what is really frustrating. I don't think it should be really understood. Under the bill, parents and guardians will have to attend an initial conference with the school officials to take at least one anti-bullying prevention course. The district could return to court if the student bullied someone again. Parents can face fined $750 or community service if they fail to persuade a judge that meaningfully try to address the child's bullying. Under a law passed in 2021, parents can sue school districts if they feel the district showed gross negligence or willful misconduct. In addressing bullying or cyberbullying of their child, Representative Glenn Cordelli, the Tufton Borough Republican behind that change, says he is unaware of it ever being used. Walker is ready to defend what she expects will be a controversial proposal. She wants people to understand how little time students spend in school versus in their parents' care. Schools will only do so much, she says, without parent support. Another sweeping proposal comes from Senator Donovan Fenton, a Democrat from Kin, who wants to see a broad study of bullying, including how it's handled and how to prevent it, at least migrate. This bill was filed after a 13-year-old Korean student died by suicide this fall, following what her mother described repeated bullying by other students. Fenton says he's heard concern for parents, teachers, administrators, and community members. He thinks everyone, including parents, needs to play a role in protecting students from bullying. Yes! We found a solution! We make the parents pay. We make the parents pay. Parents of the bullies, you need to talk to your child. But right now, you're driving on this road, and you're going to be approaching a fork in the road. That's a metaphor, meaning you have two choices. Should I talk to my child about bullying, or because look at this, you're at a fork in the road. Left means you're going to ignore what's going on, not pay the bill, and do community service, while right is, I'm going to talk to my child about bullying and how it hurts people. Parents, you need to talk. If your child's bullying somebody, you need to talk to them before the victim's parents come at your doorstep with their hair on fire saying, hey, your child bullied my child, and I want apologies. I want apologies. And it's like, and it was like this, you know. That's what happened. But the thing is like, you know, when we make parents pay. It's like, I don't want to do community service, and I don't want to pay your fine. Alright. 2 days ago, there was a 15-year-old who committed suicide. She was just 15. Downey community agrees with the loss of a teen amid school bullying and safety concerns. Take a look at this.
A local high school sports team is the focus of a hazing investigation by police in 2 cities. And community members are coming forward saying the district has a bullying issue that goes beyond athletics.
It's sad that after 20 years, the culture still hasn't changed. So I implore you, what are you going to do to make this change?
Thank you so much for being with us for the news at 6. I'm Kimberly Gill.
And I'm Ty Steele. A police investigation has put the spotlight right on Dundee High School and what some feel is a failure by the school district to deal with bullying.
That hazing investigation involves the Dundee High School wrestling team. There were allegations of misconduct while they were at the 2024 state tournament in Kalamazoo. Then later, an anonymous tip about other incidents this past April.
A joint investigation found evidence of hazing and assaults on school buses and in Dundee High School locker rooms and wrestling rooms. Erica Erickson has been talking with parents in the district, and Erica, these parents have some serious concerns.
Yes, they do. We already spoke to one parent who had a son on the wrestling team, and he said his son was bullied for years. But we also spoke to other parents and students not connected to the wrestling team who say this issue of bullying just goes much deeper, much further. And before you watch the story, I want to remind everyone there are some graphic details.
Only 15, but Bella Kriege described as an old soul who loved school and her animals. But something changed.
This was a girl that would go from missing no school, and all of a sudden she's missing quite a bit of school.
Her mother, Deborah Kriege, who adopted her when she was a baby, says March 30th, she made a horrifying discovery in her backyard.
I ran out there. She was hanging in the tree. She was just hanging there. And I started to do chest compressions. I knew she was gone, but I was just like, maybe she wasn't hanging there that long. And every day I see that vision and I hate it.
Her mother says she's angry because she believes Bella's death was largely due to constant bullying she endured. Deborah says the school could have done much more.
How many of you are beating yourself up, wondering where things went wrong? I don't want another parent to go through what my husband and I had to go through.
Speaking at this Board of Education meeting this week after criminal and Title IX investigations were launched into the school's wrestling team for hazing and assaults, many students and parents echoing Deborah's concern.
My son can no longer come here because he was bullied. He was attacked within this building, depantsed within this building, and nothing was done.
These kids have a right to feel safe at school. Mine doesn't feel safe and her feelings are valid.
I reported almost every time I heard the words "kill yourself" come out of a student's mouth, whether it was to me or someone else. I gave up. I gave up.
We have one child dead and a Title IX investigation. Do better.
While some say it's time to work together to find a real solution, many calling for an urgent change in administration to get the change needed.
If you're going to take on this administration role, then you need to have the balls to have zero tolerance and back it all up.
Well, Bella's mother says she's going to continue to spread awareness about bullying. We did reach out to the school district superintendent, not only about Bella's death, but also about these new allegations that were made during this school board meeting. He said he could not comment any further at this time. Reporting live, Erica Erickson, back to you.
Erica, thank you. Well, if you or anyone you know is in need of help, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is always available 24 hours a day. All you have to do is call or text 988.
It's like this. That's it. It's not just happening in schools. It's happening in sports. What the hell do we do about it? Like the lady said, zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. The people involved need to start saying to themselves, hey, I was the one that picked on this person. I was the one that picked on this person, this, and that, and I don't want this ever happening. Nobody would ever want bullying to ever happen again. Nobody would. We've been focusing on this since I created, like I said, we've been focusing on bullying since I created Stop Bullying Speak Up back in 2020. And believe me, every story we've ever focused in on, nobody has, every parent yell at the school board saying, hey, you failed to keep my child safe. My child doesn't want to go to school because of y'all. Y'all are doing this, y'all are doing that. Well, any school district would have the balls to say to parents and the state Department of Education, say, we don't have a bullying problem, and if we certainly do, we don't want to talk about it. We need more counseling. We need more assistant principals. We have principals, assistant principals, superintendents, school counselors who are there to help. But you know what the kids say? Nope, I'm not doing it. I will never do it. I will not have that help because I don't want to be attacked because they're afraid. Like if they snitch, they're going to be attacked. It's like you say, you're like, and if you have, because really, being a bully is just unacceptable. But being the victim is not cool. If you're sitting there, if you're a bystander, you see bullying going on, you do nothing about it, you're just as guilty as the bullies, as the people being bullied, as the bullies are. You'll make up any excuse that I want to go to school. I mean, that's the most excuse ever in truancy. You go to truancy court and you say, they ask you why you're not going to school anymore. Because I'm being bullied. And you know, they're not there to hurt you, they're there to help you. If you're being bullied, you just tell them, hey, I'm being bullied and this is what's been going on. And you know, they'll order you to go to counseling, or order you to do this, that, and the third. Part of their remedial orders. So therefore, what you need to do is, if you're being bullied, you talk to somebody. Don't look at this and say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to... Look at this. This was a 15-year-old. She was 15. She was 15. And nothing was being done to prevent this from happening again. If she was being bullied, she would report to the school district and say, hey, I'm being bullied. You never want to leave your child alone. And when it comes to cyberbullying, like I've always said, you unplug. Because that is a virtual world. Does that mean you're going to stop bullying in school? No. But what you've done is stop that from happening again. And again, we've got to teach these kids that telling is not tattling. And I say to everyone out there, this is not something like, hey, kids will be kids. This is an ongoing event. And this can make you have your child being left alone. And believe me, you don't want your child to be left alone when it comes to stuff like this. You need to talk to your child. Believe me. We've done shows about bullying, and believe me, it's the parents that just want to defend the bullies and say, my son would never pick on, my little Billy would never pick on Johnny. He would never do so. He's a good little kid. Well, pay the $7.50 or do community service. That's the choice here being made. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Okay. It's been years since we focused on dress code violations in our schools. But Lakewood is on the news because of these dress code violations saying you can't wear this, you can't wear that. Take a look.
For the last 10 years, the Lakewood Board of Education has been under control of a state monitor. Since 2014, 8 different people have held that post, appointed by the Department of Education to keep tabs on Lakewood's fiscal situation as it's gotten worse. But since Lakewood first had a monitor back in 2014, things haven't improved. Since then, the district has borrowed almost $200 million, and its fiscal situation hasn't gotten any better. Meanwhile, it's paid nearly $2 million to the state monitors to do their job. The Asbury Park Press conducted an investigation into the state monitors, what they've been doing for the past 10 years, how your taxes have paid them, and how it really hasn't done what it's supposed to. In Lakewood, for the Asbury Park Press and APP.com, I'm Joe Straw.
Well, good evening, everybody, and
all this was from the dress code. They say you can't wear this, you can't wear that. Well, Public Schools 2 weeks ago is now forcing a dress code. Pants hanging too low, shorts pulled too high, and flip-flops should not be described due to student dressing. And as GPS government board members discussed student attire on April 14th, the debate arose over whether students are coming to school suitably attired for studying, or whether they flouted the written relegations for order decorum. I mean, it's like, you know, dress codes these days are targeting females, saying, like, oh, females can't wear this, but the girls can't wear tank tops, but boys can't wear tank tops. It's like, you know, it's like this dress code is treating us men like pigs. We're not pigs, we're human beings. And it's been all the news and for years we've talked about it, but now's not a good time to just get into this. But for my opinion, it's just, you know, just follow the dress code. That's just all that matters. And believe me, I was once at a dress code one time. I was in junior high back in August of 2010. It was the first day of school. And you know, I was in a period. I didn't lose any time. I had on a pair of shorts with some side pockets until the principal came in and told me that I was at a dress code. I cannot be allowed to wear side pockets, shorts with side pockets. Mom got angry and she was all like, it's like, what? You can't wear that? Then a year later, when I was in 8th grade, they brought the shorts with side pockets back. And it's like, you know, with assembly, it's like you want to bring back something, then bring back something. If you want to keep it under policy, keep it under policy. You know, when you get rid of dress codes, this is the bottom line. If you get rid of dress codes in our schools, it creates a distraction to the educational process. That's what it does. Going back to bullying, like I've been talking about, what we need to do is set boundaries and train teachers and administrators on and give them the tools what they need. But nowadays, schools can sit there and say we don't have a bullying problem. If people can hold assemblies for young kids and say, if we were to hold plays and do little case scenarios like what we've seen, then maybe then we would send a message to kids saying, hey, you know, I should not be bullying somebody. What you need to be doing is just saying, you need to mind your own business. You're a bully and this is all your own insecurity. I'm fine. Leave me the hell alone. Push him. Every PSA commercial you've always seen on TV is talking about bullying. We've shown you every single commercial, especially the Cartoon Network one that really inspired me to talk about, to really create Stop Bullying, Speak Up. It's like I've always said at the end of the broadcast, stop bullying, speak up. You know, me and Alyssa Lamb, we are passionate. If my case manager, Alyssa Lamb, was on camera right now with me, then she would tell you some stories about when she was bullied, when her friends were being bullied, and when her other friends were being bullied. Believe me, if she came on, if she would tell me, Jonathan, I want to be on your show one day, I want to talk, because I have some issues about bullying we would like to talk about, I would say, great. Find a time and find a place, and we will do so. And then we would find a place, and we find the time, we do an episode together, bam. Not only will we spread awareness, but we'd be helping out children. It's like I said, we've got to teach these kids that telling is not tattling. I mean, we all, like I said, nobody likes talented, nobody likes a snitch. Well, telling somebody you're being bullied, you're being victimized, that's not talent. That's helping somebody out. It's one of the loneliest times in a child's life. You don't want to leave your child alone. Talk to your child. And if you're a parent of the bully, you need to talk to your child. If you don't do so, you're going to end up paying fines when laws come into place, but when you're paying fines or have community service hours. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, a question at heart. How do we prevent these school shootings from happening? It's one of the main causes of why kids are being bullied. And they want to go show the bullies, hey, I can fight back. Are we approaching metal detectors nowadays? I mean, we're approaching 3 years. Next week, couple weeks from now, we're going to be approaching 3 years since the Uvalde school shooting. And we're already approaching, this year we're going to be approaching four years since the incident happened at Oxford, Michigan. But can more be done, like at police officers and police stations, in our schools? Here's Chris Hansen.
Kids, even young ones, can get their hands on guns. It's happened with deadly frequency across the country. In Jonesboro, Arkansas, in Paducah, Kentucky, and once again yesterday in Littleton, Colorado. The challenge, experts say, is to keep those guns and the kids bent on using them out of our schools. What kind of security should schools have? It's an issue now on the minds of every parent, teacher, and student. It even topped the nation's political agenda today in the U.S. Senate.
Mr. President, we should not wait for another incident to happen before we take some action here in the Congress.
Is it time to take extreme measures at our schools? Columbine High School tells Dateline it did have an armed deputy on campus, but it does not have metal detectors or sophisticated scanners to frisk its students, that it doesn't want the school to resemble a prison camp. But tonight, in the aftermath of the massacre there, some think it might be time for schools like Columbine to join the growing number of districts that have made their entrances look like security checkpoints at airports. For students in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, among others, passing through a metal detector is as much a part of the morning routine as homeroom. Don Airy is general manager of Security Defense Systems, a New Jersey company that sells security equipment to some 20 different school districts.
I think we've reached the point now where, yes, the answers are clear. We need security screening at every school, at virtually every level.
The company specializes in several different kinds of weapons detection equipment, which it claims can make any school secure.
The application of metal detection and X-ray scanners in schools, from an equipment standpoint, absolutely will work and will solve the problem.
But such systems can be very expensive. Just one X-ray scanner, the kind used in New York public schools, can cost as much as $16,000. And some experts argue that these kinds of physical security measures will do little to stop a deranged student. Have we gotten to the point where every high school or middle school in America needs to have metal detectors
and
or X-ray machines?
And we will never.
Really? Peter Blauvelt is president of the National Alliance for Safe Schools, a nonprofit organization that provides assistance and training to schools trying to reduce crime and violence.
You go into the airport, there's a metal detector. You go into a courthouse, same thing. You can't even visit the United States Senate without going through a metal detector. Why not have them at school? Just eliminate the risk.
Well, but it doesn't eliminate the risk. I have yet to see a school that was ever built with one exterior door. I mean, one of my high schools back home had 88 exterior doors. At which pair of doors do you put the metal detector?
You're saying if a kid is so inclined to bring a gun into school and start shooting fellow students and teachers, he's going to figure out a way to get a weapon in. I'm afraid so.
And investigators say the two suspects in the Columbine rampage had not just one weapon, but at least 2 shotguns, a carbine rifle, a pistol, and some pipe bombs. Blauvelt says a determined killer doesn't necessarily have to get into the school to wreak havoc.
All we have to do is look at Jonesboro. Those kids didn't go into the school with a weapon. They just pulled a firearm and waited outside for them. You see, again, if there's determination, they will succeed.
It's what's inside the school perimeter that he says administrators need to focus on. The students, what they're saying about each other, who is getting into trouble, and for what.
Because that tells us about relationships between kids who are fighting, kids who are disrespectful, insubordinate, kids who are tardy, kids who are truant from school. All of that creates the undercurrent of what's going on in the school.
But how do you monitor the internal psychological pulse of the student body? How do you find out who may be the next student to go off like this?
It's extremely difficult. There's no easy answers on this. However, we also know that in every case, kids talked about it. It would appear that even yesterday's shooters talked about it ahead of time.
If that's true, if, as it now appears, the two suspects in yesterday's massacre telegraphed their plans, why didn't anyone intervene? The reality is that it's often hard to distinguish between misguided bravado and a real threat. How do you separate somebody who's just being a punk and somebody who may be the next mass killer?
The point of it is that as a school administrator, you've got to treat it all basically the same until you convince yourself that he's just acting out behavior, that there really is no intent.
And the ability to do that is more important than ever in light of yesterday's horrific events in Colorado. While most U.S. schools are considered safe, a recent study by the Department of Education reveals some troubling signs. In the 1996-97 school year, 10% of the nation's schools reported one or more violent crimes. And while juvenile crime has generally fallen in the last 2 years, experts say it remains intolerably high. What do all these recent shootings in schools have in common?
I hope it has put to rest forevermore the belief that it can't happen here. That belief that it can't happen here is probably the most dangerous attitude that either a community or school administrator can ever have.
Schools in Jefferson County were closed today for an intensive security review. All but Columbine High are expected to resume classes tomorrow. Joining us from Littleton is George Hinkle of the Lakewood SWAT team. Sergeant Hinkle, I understand that.
All right. If we can find ways to make schools safer, that's what we need. We need police officers. We need police departments, school police departments like we already have. And even then, we'll make schools safer. That's the bottom line here. Safety comes first. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Second Look Saturday. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourself and each other. Good night.